Magomed Ankalaev is overrated, and I am sick of pretending that he is, and I am going to prove that he is overrated in this video, or at the very least, that his resume is, and I am sick and tired of hearing people acting like Alex Pereira is ducking Magomed Ankalaev when we have a champion that in the amount of time Magomed has beaten one person has beaten like 4 champions or something like that, and most of them being title defenses. Okay, it's a ridiculous narrative that I'm gonna dispel in this video. Like I said, even though he is on a 12 fight unbeaten streak, and notice that you have to say unbeaten streak, by the way, because there are a few things in there that break up his wins, but even though he's won 10 out of those 12, okay, in that unbeaten streak, you know, keyword unbeaten, it's not all that impressive aside from the fact that it is 10 wins. Okay, now I understand that's a hard thing to do in the UFC, as is, but you know, I remember a time not all that long ago when people were absolutely ragging on Colby Covington, who, you know, had beaten a lot of guys and had only lost to Kamaru Usman, but because none of his wins were relevant for today's day and age, he was being completely and totally discounted, or even people were upset that he was getting the opportunities that he was getting. Okay, and it's the exact same for Magomed Ankalaev. By the way, I agreed with those people. I thought that Colby Covington getting his 2nd and 3rd title shot was probably a bit too much. Okay, I just did. But I also think that pretending like Magomed Ankalaev is like the unheralded champion when he has the resume that he does, you know, is just ridiculous. He is not the uncrowned champion, okay? He's not. Alex Pereira's resume is much more impressive, and we're going to go over that right now, and we're going to start with the very beginning of his unbeaten streak. Okay, we're gonna start with the very beginning of his unbeaten streak, and Marcin Prachnio. Now you see here KO and head kick punches, something I want to touch on briefly. There's a misconception about Magomed Ankalaev that he is some absolute ace on the ground, okay, just this phenom of a grappler, right? And this is why people think that he is the uncrowned champion, because Alex Pereira has yet to fight a phenom grappler like Magomed Ankalaev. Meanwhile, you go up top, you take a look at his finishes here, right? 10 by knockout, 8 by decision, not a finish, and 0 submission wins on his record, point blank period. Meanwhile, he's got a submission loss on his record, okay? So he's not some ace on the ground, okay? And you know, we'll dispel that in a little bit, but either way, we start with Marcin Prachnio. Now, if you look at Marcin Prachnio, okay, since Magomed Ankalaev, he has gone 4-4 in the UFC, and he's been finished 3 of those times, okay, which makes this finish not all that impressive. Now, it is good that he got a finish, otherwise I would really be shitting on him here, but honestly, when 3 out of his last 4, you know, 3 out of the last 4 people to have beaten him that were not named Magomed Ankalaev were also able to get a finish on him, then it doesn't seem all that impressive now, does it? Okay, moving on to Klidson or Cladson Abreu. I don't know, but you know what, dude? Neither do you, because this guy's not been in the UFC since 2020. Okay, he's just not. He's been fighting in the PFL, but aside from that, he's gone 3-5. Okay, and one of those 3 wins, by the way, was overturned because he tested positive for steroids. Right? So, you know, you don't know who he is, neither do I really, and you know, it doesn't matter. Moving on, and that was a decision victory, by the way. And you know, 5 of those losses he was finished in, quite a few of them. Then we move up to Dalcha Lungiambula, who he got another head kick KO over, a front kick, and then followed it up with some punches. Now, this guy's not fought since 2022, okay? So it seemingly retired. Maybe went 1-4 after his loss to Ankalaev and got finished in 3 of those. So again, another finish that, while it's good that you were able to finish him, is not all that special, right? Because it seems like most guys who are beating him are also finishing him. Okay, if we move up now to Ion Cutelaba, right? Now, the first one we will not even take a look at, because this was the horrible stoppage by referee Kevin McDonald, where Ion Cutelaba, who is almost as dumb, or maybe as dumb, as Magomed Ankalaev, you know, was trying to fake the fact that he was hurt, and Kevin McDonald stepped in a little too early. They got rebooked, right? And Magomed Ankalaev dealt with him as he should, okay, which was good, right? Very good. But Cutelaba's gone 3-4-1 since that fight, and he's been finished 3 times. So yet again, another finish that everybody, if everybody else is finishing the guy that you can finish, I mean, what are we talking about here? It's not like you're doing anything special. Do you know what I mean? Now we move up to Nikita Krylov. Now we start to see a little bit more quality in his wins, and I'll give it to him. Nikita Krylov is a good win, okay? But, you know, the first good opponent we get, and it's a decision victory. I'll point that out. Also, against a guy who in the last like 4 years, 5 years even, has only had really one active year. 2022 is the only year, and I think 5 years that he has fought more than once in. I believe Nikita Krylov has been plagued with injuries and all the rest of it, which is, you know, it's unfortunate, but it's reality, right? He fought him in a year where he only fought one time, 2021. And Nikita Krylov's victories, a lot of those are starting to age out as we move on too, right? Like the Alexander Gustafsson and Anthony Smith and things like that. So it's a good win, right? But number one, it's by decision. And number two, it's against a guy that's not all that active and has been plagued with injuries, and also, you know, has been around for a while and doesn't really have any ultra relevant wins that would keep him at the top of the division. When we move on to Volkan Oezdemir, again, this is another decent win. Right now, Volkan's gone 3-1 since Ankalaev, but, you know, against no one at the top of the division. We're talking a Bogdan Guskov. We're talking a CTE-ridden Johnny Walker, right? And Paul Craig, who, funnily enough, is Ankalaev's only loss. Pardon me. Yeah, Paul Craig, Ankalaev's only loss in the UFC right here, and he submitted him, which this is why I said Ion Cutelaba might be as dumb as Ankalaev. You tap with a minute left in triangle choke. I mean, what else can I call you? Do you know what I mean? So, while Ozdemir's a decent win, right? You know, it's, you know, Oezdemir in his last 6 is 3-3. So while he's 3-1 as of late, and that looks good, it's like I said, over guys that are not very good. And if we go back just a little bit, he's 50-50 in his last 6. So it's not all that special, dude. You're one of 3 dudes that have beaten him, you know, and you didn't finish him, okay? Now let's move up to Thiago Santos, because you know what's fucking crazy, dude? This is what people used to say about Colby Covington as well, right? Well, none of the guys that got him his ranking are even really around anymore, okay? They're not even around anymore. Thiago Santos was what got Magomed Ankalaev his top 5 ranking. Just so you're aware, he's not fought a guy in the top 5 since. He's not fought one of the guys in the top 5, right? So we go look at Thiago Santos's record, and it's starting to look a little bit like Tony Ferguson, isn't it? Or BJ Penn or something along those lines. And thank God for that CTE-ridden Johnny Walker. Otherwise, we would have a 0-9 to end his career. Aside from the no contest, which was a fight that he lost in the PFL, by the way, okay? So since John Jones, the split loss to John Jones, he's not won, right? We have to go back to 2019 over Jan Blachowicz. That was his last victory aside from Johnny Walker, which I think he might be the only guy to go, you know, to take to a decision for a victory. But we've gone 1-9 if you don't count this this no contest that he lost. Right, and he's been finished by Jamal Hill, got finished by some dude in the PFL, got finished by Glover Teixeira. Meanwhile, Magomed Ankalaev had 5 whole fucking rounds and couldn't finish him, right? Couldn't finish him. I mean, it's, you know, this is what got him his top 5 spot, which, keep in mind, when Magomed Ankalaev fought him, this was recent, right? Kind of recent. This was the last 3 years. 1, 2, 3, 4 fights in 3 years. And he had lost 3 of them. Yet somehow Thiago Santos was sitting at number 5 so that Magomed Ankalaev could get inside that top 5, which is just insane, if we're being honest. That's, you know, I mean, and he's still ranked there, meanwhile fighting below him in the rankings every single time after that. Now let's get to that, okay? Anthony Smith. Now, I mean, I don't need to say much here. Anthony Smith's 2-3 since Ankalaev beat him. All right, which was also, by the way, it says TKO due to punches. Anthony Smith legitimately broke his leg in that fight. Okay, now Dana White tried to say that he didn't think that was the case, and then came out and apologized and said, you know what, I didn't have an updated medical report. That's my bad. He did break his leg. So we had a broken leg, the one-legged Anthony Smith, which is no on paper. If you know what I mean. That is no on paper, Anthony Smith with a broken leg. Okay, that's like worst case Ontario for Anthony Smith. And Ankalaev still had a competitive first round with him, and then was able to finish him off. Thank God, because imagine how embarrassing it would have been if he didn't, right? But it's Anthony Smith, a much older Anthony Smith, with a broken leg, who has only been able to recently beat guys like Ryan Spann and Vitor Petrino, who are both kind of bums, if you know what I'm saying. Do you know what I mean? So anyways, moving on to Johnny Walker. Now, Johnny Walker, okay, we have to, we're going to skip Jan Blachowicz because he didn't beat Jan Blachowicz despite what you guys like to think. Okay, he just didn't, right? He just didn't. It was a draw, and it is what it is. Okay, that's it. Moving on. Johnny Walker. Now, I will point out, this would have been a fucking loss if they were not anywhere but the desert, as Johnny Walker rightly pointed out. Okay, if they were anywhere other than the desert of Abu Dhabi, I'll be more specific, because if they were in Vegas, I think it would have been a loss for Ankalaev. They would have been, like I said, a loss for Ankalaev. Okay, that was as blatant as an illegal knee as it gets. I've heard people cope and try to say, well, because Johnny Walker's tall, maybe he thought he was standing still, which is fucking horseshit, because Johnny Walker being tall, right? And then Johnny Walker on one knee being about 1.5 feet shorter than he was on, on 2 feet. Johnny Walker going from a 6'6" giant to being 5 feet tall on a knee. I mean, I know Ankalaev's stupid, okay, but I don't think he's that stupid, all right? Now, Johnny Walker, I don't even really need to go over this. Like, he's been knocked out how many times in his career, the poor guy. 6 KO losses. Volkan, Magomed, fucking Jamal. I mean, this poor guy is gonna be drooling in a couple of years. Okay, more KO losses than Johnny Walker could probably count to, if we're being quite honest. And this is what we're giving Magomed Ankalaev the best shot to beat Alex Pereira off of, a win over Johnny Walker, a top 5 ranking over Thiago Santos that was 1-3 at the time and has gone 1-9 since. Right? Like, what? And then the same people that are acting like Magomed Ankalaev is this absolute fucking killer, okay? Absolute killer, who's gonna just take Alex Pereira down and kill him, and are acting like he's getting, done wrong by or something. I don't even know if that's a saying, but you know what I mean. By not getting this title opportunity when this is what his resume is. I mean, what the fuck? Let's take a look at his stats anyways, shall we? Okay, now listen, dude. He's got good defense on the feet. He's got good striking accuracy as well, because like I pointed out, this guy's not really a grappler. Magomed Ankalaev is a striker. And you know what? He's so dumb that he's probably going to strike with Alex Pereira, at the very least, for the first little bit, like he did against Jan Blachowicz, which led to him being like, oh shit, I need to wrestle, because, I'm getting hurt here. Although it was tricky for him to get Jan Blachowicz down, and it took an exhausted Jan Blachowicz that took a 5-round fight on short notice, much like Ankalaev, to be fair, right? Because that was not supposed to be the main event originally. But, so he's got good stats in that regard. But we take a look at the takedowns. Now, he averages 1 per fight, which tells me that, they usually get up, considering most of his finishes have been on the feet. His takedown accuracy is 31%. He does have sloppy entries, by the way. Okay. And his takedown defense is 86%, which is all right, dude. That's pretty good. But it's also not many people are shooting on you. Yeah. And then we go look at Alex Pereira's stats, right? 5.64. He's much more active in the landing department. His accuracy is quite a bit higher. Although, listen, I'm not shitting. 53% accuracy is very good. 63, 55 defense. So Ankalaev's defense is a little higher, but he's less active on the feet, so he's got to defend less than Alex Pereira, who, by the way, 100% takedown accuracy. You know what I mean? Who's really the phenom on the ground, okay? Honestly, though, listen. I'm not even joking about this, okay? I do think Magomed Ankalaev is very skilled, and we're seeing him beat Johnny Walker the way that we would want to, although it took him to... Listen, man. We're seeing him beat Johnny Walker the way we would want to, right? Anthony Smith, the broken leg. But then you look at this stretch here. Decision, decision, decision. All older dudes. All dudes that have not been successful as of late. But, you know, before that, it's all the finishes, even this decision, are over fucking bums. Completely irrelevant people. Not even close to being ranked. And we're acting like this dude is like the uncrowned champion over a guy who, by the way, Alex Pereira. Let's go to July of 2022. Where is that? Oh, damn, dude, all the way down here. So since July of 2022, he has beaten Sean Strickland, a champion, Israel Adesanya, a champion, got knocked out, came back 3 months later to beat another champion. Okay, so we're at 1, 2, 3, 4 fights, 5 fights, 6 fights, 7 fights, 8 fights, in that same amount of time. Magomed Ankalaev has fought 1, 2, 3, 4. He's 2-0, 1-1. You know, he's gotten 2 wins in the same time that Alex Pereira has gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Only one of them being against a non-champion, by the way. So, listen, dude. Honestly, I'm just sick of people glazing Magomed Ankalaev so much. And I know this is going to bait his fans because they get triggered at shit like this. But I'm right, dude. I'm right. You know, if you're going to shit on Colby Covington's resume and talk about how those guys are not relevant any longer, you know, and things like that, and how you shouldn't be ranked at the top still. If we're going to shit on guys like Michael Chandler for rank squatting, right? Because he got, you know, he beat one guy to get in the top 5 and hasn't gotten a good win since. Meanwhile, Magomed Ankalaev got his ranking 2.5 years ago against a Thiago Santos that was on his way out the fucking door, has not won a fight in years, you know, and we're just gonna keep him there for the sake of it, I guess. You know what I mean? When he's not beating Yuri, he's not beating Jamal, he's not beating fucking, you know, Rakic, he's not beating any of these guys. Now, he might beat Rakic, and if he does, that's the good win that he needs. And this is probably why the UFC made that fight, by the way. Because how do you justify giving the dude a title shot off of a Johnny Walker in 2024? Okay? So, you know what, dude? Listen, dude. Magomed Ankalaev is overrated, and I'm sick of pretending he's not, like I said. So, there. I've said it. Dude, that's it, bro. Like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I'll see you at the next video. Bye-bye.